In this video, we're going to show you how to install the thermostat housing on your Jeep Wrangler, located on the front side of your engine. Going to twist that open that, and just set that off to the side. And on the bottom side of the radiator here, we have our drain. We want to go ahead, loosen this, and we have our drain bucket underneath. Might need a pair of pliers for something like this, but you got to be careful. You don't want to break that off. We want to drain the radiator here. With the coolant drained, go ahead and close up the plug here. Just want to make that hand snug. You don't want to use a wrench to tighten that. You don't want to crack that. Give it a wipe down. And just wipe off anything else from residual coolant that might have dribbled out anywhere. Next step, we want to go ahead and loosen our belt here. Now there's a belt tensioning bolt right here. We're going to use a 17mm socket, and we're going to loosen that. That's going to allow us to remove the belt. Now we just loosened the belt itself. Before you remove it, it's always a good bet to go ahead and grab something and draw out the diagram of where the belt is to be routed. That's going to save you a huge headache later on down the road trying to figure out where this belt goes. We have an alternator on the far left, an idler pulley, the power steering pump on the upper right, idler pulley, your harmonic balancer at the very bottom, and then the water pump that we are currently working on right here. And then obviously we have the belt running through and going all the way around. Go ahead and remove the belt. Just tuck that off to the side. Grab the water pump pulley and pull that off. On the top right here, we want to go ahead and disconnect our coolant temperature sensor harness. You're going to push in on this little tab right here and wiggle that off, just like that. Now on our thermostat housing here, there's going to be two bolts secured in place. There's one here that is visible up top. The other one is down below, a little bit harder to find, but we're going to go ahead and use our 1/2-inch socket to go ahead, loosen and remove these bolts. There may be coolant still inside behind the thermostat, which will be located on the back side here. And we also want to go ahead and remove the two hoses that go to the top. Using a flathead screwdriver, come on over to this clamp. We're going to loosen this. Slide this back and wiggle this off. Right here, we need to use some pliers to go ahead and open up that clamp. Pinch that, slide it up, and we're going to go ahead and use our hose pliers here. Break that free and twist and pull. Work that off. On the top bolt, we're going to use a shallow 1/2-inch. So you may have some residual coolant behind the thermostat. You can always have a catch can or a bucket underneath the vehicle to catch any fluid that might run out and down the front side of the engine. Remove that bolt and washer. And pop that off. Now our thermostat is right here. You want to pay attention to how this is installed in the engine. Make sure that the little button on the front here is facing outward. And I'm going to use a little pocket screwdriver just to get down behind here, clean a little bit of this up. Now, if you wanted to replace a thermostat while you're doing the housing, now's the time to do it. Now, I just took my pocket screwdriver, and there's a little port right here, a little coolant port. I just put the screwdriver in there and gently pried this out. There's your thermostat. So make sure that the spring side goes into the engine. The other thing you want to pay attention to is when you're installing this, on the top right here, this is a little bleeder. So there's a little button on the top right here. Make sure that that is positioned at 12 o'clock when you reinstall your thermostat. Super, super important. What we're going to do next is take a towel and we're going to stuff it into the hole in the cylinder head. The reason why we're doing this here is we're going to go ahead and clean the surface here of gasket material, and we don't want a bunch of debris and junk falling inside the engine. So we're going to start by peeling some of this off by hand, whatever we can get to, and it is stuck on there pretty good. Now this is a cast cylinder head, it's a cast steel. We're going to go ahead and use a razor blade to go ahead and clean up majority of the junk here. If this was an aluminum cylinder head, there's no way we would use a razor blade because you can gouge the aluminum and ruin it. So I'm going to carefully go ahead and scrape down the surface, working our way around. With our surface cleaned of all the gasket, I'm just going to take some 400 grit sandpaper and I'm just gently going to scuff up the surface here. And this is going to help me identify any defects or burrs, anything like that in that cylinder head, anything that we need to be cautious of. It's also going to help with the mating surface of our new gasket going in place. Now there's a little ridge on the inside here where the thermostat seats. You want to make sure that that is pretty clean of any debris. I'm going to spray a little bit of solvent on a rag and wipe that down. Now we're going to prepare our thermostat to go ahead and go back in. Remember, we have the vent right here, the bleeder. I'm going to take a little dab of black RTV and I put it at 3 and 9 o'clock on our thermostat, and just going to little smear that just a little bit. And what this is going to do is when I set this into the cylinder head, it'll help stick and hold it into place. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to smear it all around, and you definitely don't want to get it near the bleeder. Now we're going to just set that for a couple moments and let that cure up a little bit. We have our thermostat housing right here. Make sure you position the gasket properly. What I'm going to do is just put a couple quick little dabs of RTV. We're not going to coat this. Simple. This is going to be to secure the gasket while we install. That is it. Line this up. Make sure that the gasket has the open port here. Line it up with the holes. Press this into place and just set this aside for now. Let's go ahead and pull our rag out here. And go ahead and position your thermostat into the head here. Remember to position that bleeder button right up at the top. Anything that goes into a water jacket, you want to make sure you can put some liquid Teflon sealer on the threads themselves. That's going to help seal this up. So go ahead and put that sealer on there. Go ahead and install these, and we'll torque them after we get them all done. Take your housing. I'm going to go ahead and put our bolt in. Get that upper bolt started. Just a few threads. And we have our lower bolt caught. We're going to use our socket here to thread that in as far as we can. Then we'll go ahead and run this upper bolt in. Let's torque down the bolts to 15 foot-pounds. Install the heater hose. Slide that down into place. Go ahead and slide the clamp down into position. Install the upper radiator hose. Go ahead and slide your clamp down. Now I went ahead and I just set up the belt on our main pulleys here. You can grab your harness, line that up, push that connector on. To tighten up our belt, we need to go back to that 17 millimeter bolt down underneath our temp sensor down below. Now we're gonna hold pressure on this here, and let's go ahead and tighten this. And that is clockwise, we're gonna do this. Now belt tension itself, when you tighten this here, you don't want it over tight and you don't want it loose. You wanna make sure in the middle of the span here, from this pulley to this pulley, you're in the middle, and you want about a 1/2 inch flex down and a 1/2 inch up. We could probably go a tiny bit more on that there to snug that. Now at this point here, that looks good. Now if it's too loose, you're gonna end up with a belt squeal. If it's too tight, you're gonna end up burning out the tensioners and all kinds of other things prematurely. So you wanna go ahead and make sure that you have that measurement just right. So now go ahead and fill up our radiator. Be sure to use the appropriate coolant designed for your particular model vehicle. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our filler neck here, or a filler container. Install the radiator cap. And once you have this all set, you want to go ahead and start up the vehicle. Put the heat on high, let it run for about 10 to 15 minutes, let it get up to full operating temperature. At this point, you want to come out here and check the expansion tank. If your fluid level is below the full, you want to go ahead and top that off to the full mark itself. At that point there, you can go ahead and close up the hood and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.